Hello, welcome to FPL Overpaid Over the Bar season 2026 27. Is that really where we are? Yes, it is. I had to check the calendar on my computer. So, going forward, it is that moment where everyone is hoping to do well and everyone's believing that they can, or maybe worried that they won't as we go into the new season. And I wanted to look at how that could be, how you could get off to a good start that might be better than other people's with a big risk factor. Okay. Now that I've kind of done that over the last three seasons and had a very good rank after a few weeks. You could call it luck, but in the last three seasons, I kind of went a bit against the premium decisions of the most popular choices from the other players, and it worked. And it was based on hunches to do with player form, how they were in the summer, and all this kind of thing. But I'm going to show you what I mean in a moment. First of all, let's just look at where I finished in the past two seasons. So in the past three seasons. So last season, I ended up uh, in position 37K. My rank was there. This is my fifth ever top 50K rank finish. And in the past three seasons, let's just take that bad rank there out of the picture that's below it. To be fair, I finished 11K in 2020, but then I had three seasons, well, a couple of seasons there that weren't so good, 22, 23. But then in the last three seasons, I finished outside the top 100K in 25, but inside in last season and two seasons ago. And the game is supposed to be much more difficult now, but my game is actually seems to be improving at the moment. Um, and I just want to go through why that might have happened in those two seasons. And it was basically all about the premiums that I chose. So last season, remember that Mo Salah had a fantastic season in the previous year, and nobody was leaving him out of their team if they had any sense. But I decided that there was a chance, given his age and just looking at his, ability to run compared to previous seasons, because his game does depend on a bit of pace because he's a winger. Um, I just took a hunch basically that he wasn't going to be as good. And I felt that with Haaland being more ready at the start of the season, Haaland had played in the Club World Cup, but I very much felt that he'd be ready and fit for the start of the season. I thought Haaland, with his fixtures at the beginning of the season, was a better bet than Mo Salah. So I left out Salah, and I didn't really have him until a few games in the middle of the season. And apart from that, I was just made some sound choices. So I took Gabriel on from the start. I had him in from game week one in the belief that he'll be good at some point. He'll score me points. He'll at some point. I didn't want to go short term at the beginning of the season. I didn't feel it was that kind of fixture run. Um, and that combination of Haaland and Gabriel with Haaland as captain very much was the main thing. Apart from that, at the start of the season last year, I had players like Ismail Sarr that few people had that did well at the beginning. Gakpo I put in, and he scored more points than the other Liverpool players. And a lot of people had Wirtz. A lot of people had who's the other player that didn't do? It was kind of a trio of players. I think it was maybe Morgan Rogers in midfield. There was a kind of trio of midfield players that a lot of people had that I didn't have. And it was as much about the players that I didn't have as that I had. I mean, I'm not saying I knew those players weren't going to do well, but I just didn't feel that great about them. And I thought Wirtz coming into a new league, needs time to adapt. Certainly wasn't sure about him, especially at the price. I think it was like 9.5 or something last season. So I wasn't keen on him. And I think those were the combination of factors that pushed me into the top 100K quite quickly last season. I think it was 3 game weeks, something like that. Um, the season before, uh, I I think I did the both Salah and Haaland in the season before when people were going for one or the other. Or was that the season before that? No, wait, my memory's confusing me. There was a season where I went on both of them at the beginning, and then Haaland. after 6 games, I dropped Haaland when he was already on fire on the basis that his first 6 games in the previous season had been strong and then they fell off. And I felt he can't continue this rate and actually transferred him out and brought Cole Palmer in. Cole Palmer scored 4 goals against Brighton and I captained him. That is the luckiest I've ever been at FPL. I think that was in game week 7. I think it was 3 seasons ago. It was the season when I finished 44k, I think. Um, and I suppose you just put that down to luck at the end of the day. I mean, nobody else would have sold Haaland unless they were completely mad at that point. Uh, but I did have a hunch about it, and my hunches can be pretty good. So let's just say a combination of good judgment and very good luck has brought me very strong starts in the last 3 seasons. Now, I have I said my hunches were strong. I have a hunch that this season I am not going to do as well, have as good a start as the previous as the previous 3 seasons. So let's have a look at a team that I've put together with an idea of bench boosting in game week 1. Okay. Now, this is very big. Hang on. Sorry, I'm trying to reduce the size of this. Why is that there? Okay. So there we go. Right. This is a team without Haaland. Now, I can't say that I'm really sure that Haaland won't go off at the start of the season. I think he probably will. But I just think that at his price, there may be a way of avoiding him and picking up points elsewhere. I don't have Gabriel in this team either. And what I've done is I've put Virgil van Dijk and Tarkovsky in here because they very much are givens that they will produce, they'll get DEFCONs, both of them. Tarkovsky, by the way, I watched him a few times last season, and DEFCONs favors bad defending. Whenever Tarkovsky gets the ball in the penalty area or anywhere near the penalty area defending, he'll just clear the ball. He'll whack it. And every time you do that, you get a DEFCON. And he does it every time he gets it. He never thinks about passing the ball. I mean, he's the kind of player that would never get a game for one of the top teams. I don't really like that about DEFCON. It does reward bad defending, in my opinion, in the sense of clearances. But given that, Tarkovsky is nailed for DEFCONs. So he might get the odd yellow card, but most times he'll get 4 points minimum. And at 6 million, that for me is worth it. Now, I know people want to save money so they can spend it elsewhere. And a lot of people don't have Tarkovsky that I've seen, a lot of other teams, because they want both Haaland and Bruno Fernandes. But if you don't have one of them, especially Haaland is expensive, you can have Virgil and Tarkovsky. And I think this is a really good combination. You get your two Merseyside centre back, DEFCON, good bets for DEFCONs, and gets the odd headed goal from a corner or a free kick. I think this is a good combination. I put in Calafiori. This could turn into Ben White or Timber, depending on who looks more nailed for game week 1, because I'm not sure Calafiori is. It could well be that Hincapié plays on the left instead of him. I mean, Lewis Skelly could also play there, but it doesn't seem like Lewis Skelly is anymore. That's his position anymore. But I'm not 100% sure about Calafiori. I do want an Arsenal defender. I don't think I want two. In goal, Verbruggen and Kinski are the best 4.5 options. I think that's pretty much agreed across the board. um, Brighton and Spurs don't have amazing fixtures, but their fixtures are okay. Spurs go to Brentford on the first day. Verbruggen home to Brighton, home to Aston Villa. Um, I mean, you could. The only problem with having two goalkeepers and rotating is it can actually happen that you end up with less points than just having one goalkeeper and their reserve keeper on the bench. because you can make the switch and get it wrong. You can put the wrong one on the bench and you end up missing out on someone else's points. And that is very frustrating in FPL. It's been a few years since I bothered to rotate keepers, unless one of them was 4.0 and hardly ever played. I might try it with these two because I just like both of them. I've got Luke Shaw in because of Manchester United's fixtures. I've only got two Manchester United. I might have three when the season starts. Their fixtures are very, very good. Bruno Fernandes doesn't need any explaining whatsoever. Has to be captain in this team because he's playing away at Hull City, whose stats in the Championship. I don't know if you've heard this, but their stats in the Championship are quite unbelievable. There was one of the worst performing teams ever to get promoted in terms of almost all the stats, whether they be the real stats or the expected stats. I mean, the expected stats hilarious, like they're in the bottom three for some things. So unless they sign some really good players, although having said that, the second half of the season was much better than the first, and did sign a couple of players in January, I think. So let's not forget that. But I mean, given what we know, Hull City looked like the best bet to target in terms of the promoted teams whenever you have a player playing against them. I love Gibbs White. I think, he's not cheap. His price is 8 million, but I just think that given that their new manager, Oliver Glasner, is likely to get the best out of him, like he did with Eze and uh, who's your man there? Ismail Sarr. And he gets the best out of these attacking midfield players. I think he might do the same with Gibbs White. So I've got him in. Semenyo, the problem with having now I've got Semenyo and Foden in this team, and this may very well change. I like the look of both of them. The problem with any player apart from Haaland as an attacker for Manchester City is that they will either be in danger of not starting or they'll be in danger of being substituted on 70 minutes. So I think either of these players is a danger for not starting or being subbed. I'm not totally convinced that I'll end up doing this, but at the moment I have Foden and Semenyo because of Manchester City's fixtures, especially that game week 3 fixture they have. Who are they playing in game week 3 again? Let's have a look. Manchester City playing Coventry in game week 3. Remember now you can actually get fixtures on here as well. Opponent FDR. Okay, this is the rating only. It's not the actual fixture. But you can see there they've got a Coventry City at home. There, if you put your cursor over these numbers, you get the fixture. So Coventry City at home in game week 3 for Manchester City. Um, Up front, I've got Calvert-Lewin, João Pedro, and I've picked Gyökeres. Now, this one is the one that you won't see anyone recommending. Okay, because Kai Havertz seems to be favoured by Arteta, and there is an idea that Gyökeres really isn't at the level anyway for Arsenal. They may even sign a striker before the season starts, and obviously if they do, I won't have him in my team. But my bet is that he starts game week 1 against Coventry City because he doesn't these are the kind of games he puts in Gyökeres to get a goal. He may not start Aston Villa away in the following week, but I could have him on the bench for that one. I've got enough quality in attack here not to start him in game week 2, and maybe even transfer him out in game week 3 when they play Chelsea at home. There's a possibility I play the wild card in game week 3. If I've really messed up, and Haaland is clearly unavoidable in terms of getting him in, that would be very costly, of course, because I'd be paying over the odds already. By game week 3, it could be more expensive. This is an extremely risky team. I'm not recommending you do it. I'm just saying this is one way you could get off to a very good start. Now, the bench boost, the problem with doing the bench boost later than the early game weeks is that with the bench boost, you need a reserve keeper. And if you're going to wildcard into a team later on in the season and include two goalkeepers that are 4.5, it's harder to do at that point because you don't really necessarily want them hanging around with a price like this. So it's better to have 4.5s early and do the bench boost, and then I can get rid of one of them when I do the wild card and concentrate just on one keeper at that point and save some money. Um, Pascal Gross for Brighton is on penalties and is only, how much is he? 5.5 mid. That's silly, isn't it? 5.5 million. So he's on my bench for this game. I mean, this bench is very much with regard to boosting it. I'm not sure whether these three will be the ones on my bench if I don't bench boost, and I'm sure I won't play exactly this squad anyway. But um, I'm showing you here 15 players that I think are worth picking in game week one, with some caveats, like I said, for Foden and Semenyo. Now, one thing I do not understand is how Joao Pedro can be 7.5. Last season, he got 15 goals and 9 assists, and he had a couple of mega hauls that really, I had him later on in the season when he got that hat trick at Aston Villa. I mean, I don't, under- the pricing for me is mostly is dead right this season, but this I do not understand. He should be 8.5 because now everybody's going to have him. His ownership is 54%. By the time game week one rolls around, it will be higher than this because the people who join later tend to go for the players that they know that are, he'll be a popular one with the mass crowd that don't, you know, they're not obsessive like I am about it. Probably they have much happier lives, as a result, or much more interesting lives. But they'll probably pick Joao Pedro because they're going, oh, I know him. I know he scores points. That's a good price. Bang. He'll probably end up on 70%, right? Now, I don't understand how this has happened that he's 7.5. I really, really don't like it. But anyway, I am liking having him in my team. I do expect him to score goals again this season. Well, it's very much to be seen how well Xavi Alonso does in his new job at Chelsea, but he's got plenty of talent in that team. You can't imagine him stuffing it up that badly. So, uh, Gyökeres, like I say, I think we'll get a goal against Coventry, and I've got him in there. Um, okay, so game week one. There's some good fixtures in here, and I really think that there are certain teams that will be very much targeted. Manchester United and Manchester City are the two biggest ones. Oh, this is game week three I'm looking at here. Whoops. So Manchester City home to Bournemouth and Manchester United away at Hull and Arsenal home to Coventry. So you've got three fixtures where you would not only expect a win for the stronger team, but you might expect two or three goals as well. But there's plenty of other stuff in here that's interesting. Nottingham Forest Leeds could be good for either team, and I think having one of each of those is a good idea. Brentford Spurs is interesting, but there are so many teams in the Premier League now with a new manager. It's very difficult to know how well they'll do at the beginning. Newcastle United are completely imploding at home to Liverpool. And at the minute, you'd say Liverpool will definitely win this game. Newcastle are selling lots of their best players. They've got a new manager supposedly coming in from the Saudi league. And I know people always say no disrespect to the Saudi league, but I'm not going to say that. I'm going to disrespect the Saudi league. And people always say no disrespect and then disrespect whoever they're talking about. I mean, don't say it. So, I mean, there's a possibility they sign a few good players. Why not? Um, but at the minute, with Bruno Guimaraes leaving by the looks of it for Arsenal and Lewis Hall also wanting a transfer, Newcastle are going to be bottom half this season, and their fans are going to be mega pissed off. That's for sure. Chelsea's fixtures are pretty good. They've got Fulham away, then They got Brighton at home, but then they have Arsenal in game week 3, which is the first big clash of the season. Arsenal Chelsea game week 3, Sunday, 6th of September. Okay. There are plenty of other players that you might want to look at, apart from the ones that I've shown. And I'm going to concentrate on the teams that I think are going to do okay. I'm going to start with Leeds because I think Leeds are a good team. In defense, you could go for Justin. Now, we don't know who's going to play centre back for Leeds, but it's probably going to be Muharemovic. I suppose you pronounce that. And uh, yeah, he's 5 million, but yeah, probably better on a 4.5. Whoever whoever partners him in defence at 4.5 at the centre back. I like James Justin actually. I think he'll get attacking returns again this season. But anyway, in midfield you've got Stack and Ampadu. Okafor had a very good end to the season. Any of those might be worth getting if you're looking for a cheaper midfield player. Ampadu gets a lot of defcons. He got a surprising amount of points last season. He got 134 points. That's not bad at all on that price point of 5.5. If you were to repeat that, it'd be worth getting. Obviously, up front, Calvert-Lewin. Okay, Manchester City. James Trafford is leaving, evidently, to. He's joining another Premier League team. Oh, he's joining Leeds. That's right. But he's 5 million, so that puts him out of the question. Um, they are talking about now. Maresca has talked about having Guardiola, Foden as pillars of the team. He said, I think all he's done here is just say to them, look, you're more in my thoughts than you were for Pep because last season Guardiola and well, especially Foden fell out of favor with Pep in terms of selection. And I think he's just telling Foden that, yeah, you're going to be considered. I don't think it means he's definitely starting. And actually, if you're looking at a midfield player who's definitely starting, it's Doku. There's nobody else on the left. He's going to start every week for Manchester City. Whether he gets a full game or not's another matter, but he will get plenty of football. And as we've seen, he really does a lot of dribbling, taking on. And last season, he got a few points as well, ended up with 120. But as you can see, Foden outscored him even though he didn't have a great season and at 0.5 cheaper. So Doc is by no means a great bet. There's talk of Reinders leaving Manchester City and joining another Premier League team, which is given that he was supposed to be the best player. I mean, even I said, I remember I was saying last season after one game, this guy's amazing. I'm going to get him. Ended up not doing much. And then Turkey was a bit similar, where he came in and really impressed. But it's hard to see him getting starts every week with the amount of players they have going forward. He's basically competing with Semenyo and Foden for the same position. So I think it's really hard, Manchester City. A lot of people are going for Elliot Anderson. I think Elliot Anderson will not get, let's say, more than 140 points this season, 180 he got last season. Now, if you watched any game for Forest, he was constantly cleaning up in midfield. He was having to possess the ball like every 30 seconds, it seemed like in some games. This won't be happening for Manchester City. You know, that games do not turn over as fast when Manchester City play. It may be that you get some attacking returns, but I don't like that for 6.5. You will find other opinions elsewhere that disagree with me. Finally, Haaland is absolutely the best choice in the game. There's no doubt about it. He's the best player in fantasy football, one of the best players in the Premier League, certainly with the highest goal scoring potential. If I go against him, and I'm not 100% sure I will, it could be a very big act of folly. I don't advise you to do the same. I advise you to get Haaland. There's not really, although he does have weeks where he doesn't do it, and he does tend to have form concentrated in certain groups of weeks. I mean, that's true of all players, but for him, I feel like the beginning of the season is always very, very strong. Now, this time he's had a very different close season because remember that in the last 4 years he's been in the Premier League, he's only played in the summer once, and that was in the Club World Cup last year. And Manchester City didn't really take that too seriously. There was a lot of talk of them just like having a stroll around town instead of doing trading in between games. It wasn't intense. It wasn't intensive. Haaland has not had a summer like this summer before. Now, it's not to say that he didn't look really, really fit and firing because he really, really did in the World Cup. And those goals he scored against Brazil, two great goals, completely different goals, show how lethal he is because he barely got a chance in the game apart from those goals. So you'd be an absolute fool not to have Erling Haaland in your team. And you can call me an absolute fool if I choose to do that in at the start of this season and he goes off and I would deserve it completely. But I'm kind of considering it. Another team I want to tell you about is Everton, right? Don't don't imagine that Everton won't get some results. They're one of the few teams in the league who've got a settled pattern, a settled manager. They all know where each other. The only problem is, I mean, and Di might be leaving. That could weaken them quite a bit. And of course, they've got this Beto Barry problem up front where neither of them seem to score that many goals, take their chances. If they don't sign a striker, I mean, it's not going to be easy. And they're not the most attractive team to watch. But I think Dewsbury Hall at 6.5 is a good pick. I think he's a better pick. I want to go this on the record. He's a better pick than Anderson at 6.5. This guy's a seriously good football player. Every time I watch him, I think, what are you playing for? Why are you playing for Everton? He has a really strong skill set. He's a great finisher, great passer, extremely sharp, team player, very, very good. So my recommendation from Everton is Tarkovsky, Dewsbury Hall, and nobody else. Okay. Now, Nottingham Forest, I'm also going to look at them. So a lot of people talk about Nico Williams. The logic on Nico Williams is that Oliver Glasner will turn Nico Williams into Daniel Munoz. No, he won't. He will not. Munoz is like he gets into the box, he gets goals, he plays, he's got some sort of sixth sense about where the ball's going to be. Extremely hard worker, very good defender, world class football player, actually, Daniel Munoz. And Nico Williams isn't. Very quick, can put in a good cross. I wouldn't have him for 5 million. I'm sorry, I'd have him for 4.5. I wouldn't have him for five. Aina for Forest, not a bad bet. 4.5. They could keep a few clean sheets. He isn't that great for def cons, however. I've talked about Gibbs White already. I want Hudson Odoi to come back. Oh, he looks like he could come back. I mean, I think they're going to do fine, Nottingham Forest. The other one that's a good bet is Igor Jesus, who definitely has the best name in the Premier League. He will probably start 90% of the games for them. And I rate him as a player. I think he's a very good player. I'm not necessarily a great goal scorer yet, but this could be his season. Um, okay, now Bournemouth have a new manager, and this really does test their ability to be as buoyant and as I mean they're relentless sometimes that they were last season. They just never seem to give up, nicking points here and there. But they've lost Groupie Junior. Cliver is on penalties, not Tavernier, we've discovered, which could be make him worth getting. He may be the only player in the team worth having, in my opinion. But if you want to go with Truffert or Hill because of defense or defcons, you can, but I wouldn't for 5.5. I think there'll be other players worth having that are cheaper. My team this year is called Grimes, Amps, Watkins, in tribute to the three former Exeter City academy players now playing in the Premier League. And I know that's for some of you supporting even championship teams, you might think that's a bit pathetic because a lot of your academy players have played in the Premier League. but these are players that, I mean, Ethan Ampadu never really played much for us, but he was our player in terms of coming through the academy in Exeter. His father worked for Exeter City, played for Exeter City as well. Um, and he's he's still a legend in terms of our club. I mean, some people would disagree. Some Exeter City fans might disagree with that. Well, I think so. Ollie Watkins, of course, and Matt Grimes, who we sold to Swansea and is now a Coventry City player, has been for a couple of years. These are all really great football players in terms of the levels they've reached from our academy, and it's a tribute to our academy. So I'm probably going to use this team name. I might choose it. I have this thing about when I don't use the team name Antastico, my season is never usually as good. This could be this could be a season where I'm not as good, and I don't mind. I mean, I do mind. Really want to finish. I mean, I'll still do these videos if I'm 500,000 or worse. I'll still do still do these videos and try and sort out anything that might interest anybody watching, which is usually very few people anyway. So thank you very much if you watched so far. It's a bit messed up. I will come back again in a few days and look at something a bit more specific. This is quite general. Take care, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.